It's been a while since the last time I returned to a Fazbear Frights book. The last time I did was an In the Flesh video back in February, but I think one of the most interesting Fazbear Frights stories is The New Kid. The New Kid was probably the first Fazbear Frights story where we didn't really know what actually happened, but I think I figured it out. In this video, I'll be explaining all the interesting details that I found while rereading The New Kid, and at the end, I'll discuss the theory I have about this story. I've actually done a video like this about The New Kid, but it was actually the last one of these detailed videos that I did before I implemented the theory aspect to it, which I started with Step Closer in a video after Security Breach. I'm sure I'll repeat at least a few details, but I think either way that old video was way lower in terms of quality compared to my videos now, especially in terms of the way that I spoke and even the pitch of my voice slightly, so it's probably best that I redo it. So now, without further ado, let's get started. Number 1. The story begins with Devin telling a story about two girls being eaten to death on a bright sunny day at a birthday party. I don't really know if it's intentional, but I feel like this might just be a minor reference to the Bite of 83. We see it's bright and sunny in the FNaF 4 minigames, and the Bite of 83 happened during a birthday party, and while the bite victim isn't literally eaten, he is bitten, which is decently similar. Like I said, I don't know if this is actually intentional, and even if it is, it may not mean anything major, but it just felt like it might be a reference, especially considering other parts of the story and what they seem to represent. Number 2. In The Immortal and the Restless, it's made very clear that the baby is Vlad's, and it's also made clear that Vlad represents William, and that the baby represents Michael as it's his son who looks just like him, like Michael to William. Vlad in that show completely ignores and neglects his child, which indicates Mike is ignored by William. The bite victim is constantly shown more attention than him, whether good or bad attention, and stories like Lonely Freddy, Gumdrop Angel, and The New Kid itself have a dynamic like this where the main character is mean to another character because they get more attention. In The New Kid, Devin is very jealous of the attention Kelsey gets because he doesn't get any. Devin also does anything to try and get attention from Heather. He doesn't care whether the attention is good or bad, he just wants Heather to notice him. So Devin, as sort of payback on Kelsey for stealing all the attention of everyone including Heather, brings Kelsey over to a Fredbear Springlock suit and pulls a prank on him, only trying to scare him, but he ends up accidentally killing him. Basically the exact same thing as what happens in the games with Michael and the bite victim. What this seems to indicate to me is that Devin and Kelsey in this story are meant to be a dynamic like the bite victim and Michael, which does seem to be important later on, as I'll get to. Number 3. What I find weird about this story is that it's very clearly established that Kelsey is not a real kid. He dies, his vocal cords are severed, then is clearly not traumatized at all, has no scars, can speak, and is alive and well, and goes to try and befriend bullies after befriending Devin, who basically unintentionally became sort of a bully, and he killed him. It's made very clear that Kelsey isn't a normal kid, and probably isn't human at all. What I think is interesting though is how the story goes out of its way to make it seem like he is normal. He's really good at making friends, his mom and dad are both mentioned more than once, he has a neighbor as a friend, he references movies like the Twilight movies, and he is just constantly implied to be normal. Since it's clear that he isn't, I feel like this story is trying to basically go out of its way to make us think that he is normal, in a sort of abnormal way compared to other stories so that the twist would be more shocking when it's revealed that he actually isn't normal. I think what's most interesting is the fact that Kelsey intentionally befriends Mick and Devin, despite no one liking them, and then goes on to befriend bullies at the end. No new kid would try to befriend the people that no one likes, which definitely tells us he isn't meant to be a normal dude. What exactly is he? We'll get to that a bit later. Number 4. I was debating whether or not to mention this next detail because there's a very good chance that it doesn't mean anything, especially since I couldn't think of anything that it would mean. It's a really minor detail that I think probably means nothing, but why not mention it anyway in case there is somehow something that it could actually mean? Early in the story, Devin flings a rock at a stop sign and hits the middle of the O perfectly. Later on, he throws a rock at a coupling on the end of a boxcar and hits it dead on. Shortly after that, he throws a rock at a fern growing at the base of a tree. Even later, he throws a rock at a bird and hits it dead on, killing it. It's like the detail of Pete chewing gum in Step Closer, it just shows up constantly. But the difference here is that I can't think of anything that it could mean, so it probably means nothing. But I wanted to mention it because considering it pops up frequently in the story, it just might mean something. If you can think of anything, let me know, but as of right now, I think it probably means nothing. I just wanted to mention it just in case. Number 5. During class, students were asked what justice means. Kelsey raised his hand and said that justice balances the scales, removing the downside so the upside can't be outweighed by it. Then Heather raised her hand and said justice is like payback, and that if justice goes too far, accidents happen. And the whole class laughed at that except Mick, and more interestingly, Kelsey. I feel like this is meant to be foreshadowing and also sort of a further hint at the bite victim and Michael's relationship, both with the idea of Michael getting back at the bite victim for stealing attention and the bite victim sort of getting back at Michael for killing him. I'm of the belief that the bite victim was actually the one who inflicted the nightmares onto Mike, and while I don't think it was actually done maliciously, and I don't think it was intended to be payback, it kind of would be from a narrative perspective. Either way, both these scenarios also happen later in the story, with Devin getting back at Kelsey for stealing the attention, and Kelsey seemingly getting back at Devin in the end. Number 6. This next detail is actually an inconsistency that I noticed. Early in the story, when Devin and Mick find that their clubhouse was destroyed, it said that Devin and Mick have been friends for 6 years. However, later when George picks up the kids and has to leave Devin and Mick behind at first, it said that they'd been friends for 10 years, which obviously doesn't match what we learned earlier in the story. Number 7. The Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location in this story has a Freddy Fazbear head as the entrance and is in the middle of the forest with all the animatronics still there. This has led many people to believe that this story is not a part of the Stitch line, as Freddy's here isn't Jeff's Pizza. However, I'm inclined to disagree. I don't think this location was ever meant to be the original Freddy's. I don't think the differences here are meant to signify a different universe. I think it's just meant to show that it is a different Freddy's. Remember, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is a big brand with locations across the country. The missing children incident in the 80s got Freddy shut down, likely entirely, meaning it's most likely that following the missing children incident, every Freddy Fazbear location was shut down. The one in the New Kid probably isn't meant to be the original one, but rather is just likely one of the ones that shut down because all of them did. Number 8. When the group finds the Golden Freddy suit, Devin tells Kelsey that the bear sort of looks like him. This is a detail that doesn't actually go anywhere in the story, and it's not mentioned again. At the end of the story, when Devin reaches inside Golden Freddy, he attacks Devin. It's clear in this story, considering nothing outside of the hair was touched, that this wasn't a Springlock failure. Golden Freddy attacked Devin maliciously and intentionally. This indicates that while whatever controls Kelsey may or may not be Golden Freddy, the entity of Kelsey in the form of Kelsey is heavily associated with Golden Freddy and seems to have been created in the image of Golden Freddy. Considering we talked earlier about Kelsey being connected with the bite victim, I feel that these details heavily imply that the bite victim possesses Golden Freddy. Number 4. Right before Kelsey got springlocked, he says that while inside the Golden Freddy suit, he doesn't know how to stand up. This to me seems like a clear reference to the fact that Golden Freddy in all of the FNaF games outside of FNaF AR is always sitting down. It's also worth noting that everything about the springlock failure matches what we see of springlock failures in other areas of the series. Shooting his arms to his sides matches Afton in FNaF 3 getting springlocked, Kelsey convulsing and twitching matches Golden Freddy in Ultimate Custom Night and also Afton's springlock failure in FNaF 3, and his screaming suddenly stopping because of his vocal cords being severed matches what Afton says in the Silver Eyes, and so does the fact that Kelsey dies very slowly. Number 10. This next and actually last detail is another inconsistency. The incident of Kelsey getting springlocked happened on Monday after school. Days passed and people started getting worried, and the police concluded he ran away. Mick had gotten sick and stayed home, and Devin went to his house on Friday to visit him. Mick suggests that Kelsey might still be alive, and Devin tells him he probably isn't because it's been 6 days. Now, I don't know if any of you guys have ever, been alive for a week, but Friday is not 6 days after Monday. Friday is 4 days after Monday. I'm not sure how this was messed up. I think the writers probably just forgot what day the incident happened, but it's just a weird thing that I noticed. And it's actually the last thing I noticed while rereading The New Kid. But we're not quite done yet. You saw from the title that I said I think I solved the story, but how? Well, let's talk about that. So who or what is Kelsey? One theory suggests that Kelsey is Andrew, but I definitely don't think that's the case for a couple reasons. First of all, while the idea of getting back at someone who hurt you does match both Kelsey and Andrew, their methods do not. Andrew says in the epilogues that he doesn't want to kill people, yet Kelsey in this story seems to have no problem doing so. Andrew also wasn't killed by bullies, he was killed by William, so he has no reason to go after bullies. But I think most importantly, the body inside Golden Freddy isn't Andrew. This is the main thing that I think should be addressed here. While Andrew does have curly black hair just like the body in Golden Freddy and The New Kid, Andrew is shown in the Man in Room 1280 to be wearing an alligator mask, and throughout the series, Spirits spirits always wear the masks of the characters they possess. Even if Andrew doesn't possess an alligator, the fact that he's not wearing a Golden Freddy mask clearly shows that he's not Golden Freddy. That doesn't mean that whatever Kelsey actually is literally Golden Freddy, but it does mean that Kelsey can't be Andrew because he doesn't have any motivation to do what Kelsey does, so him transferring his spirit all the way to this location and this Golden Freddy suit doesn't make any sense. So if Andrew isn't the body in the suit, then who is? Well, to figure that out, we have to figure out who Kelsey actually is, and I think the answer is relatively easy to figure out. The body inside Golden Freddy doesn't actually seem to have been there before Kelsey died. Devin is said to have looked inside the suit and even put his arm into it before bringing Kelsey there, and it would have been hard to miss the dead body inside. Furthermore, while Kelsey likely isn't a real living being, the form he takes is physical, meaning if the body was there the whole time, he wouldn't have fit inside. In reality, there's no body in Golden Freddy. It's only put there to amplify the fear Devin has when he dies. The entity behind Kelsey in this story is Eleanor. Before making it to the suit in Freddy's, it's noted that Devin hears slithering in the walls, which is a very odd detail that never gets brought up again. The other two also clearly hear the sound, so Devin didn't imagine it. This seems to heavily imply that Eleanor is the one behind all this, but Eleanor is heavily associated with Dr. Talbert and his daughter, Renelle. So whose body is it that she places inside Golden Freddy at the end in order to amplify Devin's fear? Renelle's. Renelle is shown to have curly black hair, and while I do admit it is kind of strange for this to happen, Andrew just doesn't make sense to be the body here, and Eleanor is most likely responsible for this story, so Renelle is the one who is most likely to be the body in the suit. That's the missing piece. That's how I think I've solved the new kid. Eleanor is the main villain of the story. Kelsey is simply an entity created by Eleanor based on Golden Freddy, just like how Into the Pit Spring Bonnie is an entity created by Eleanor based on William Afton. Kelsey gets spring-locked and Eleanor uses him to claim more victims. Eleanor places the body of Renelle in Golden Freddy when Devin returns to amplify his immense dread for the situation, and he dies with Eleanor claiming yet another victim. But that's everything there is to talk about for this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to, and let me know in the comments what you think of the theory. Do you think Eleanor is responsible for the story? What do you think Kelsey is, and who do you think the body in the suit belongs to? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys!